Hi, and welcome back to another Patch of the Day video. In these videos, I just explain a single interesting patch or idea. And today, we're gonna patch a spring reverb in the wrong place. For this, I'll take you through building the patch on my Modular first, and then I'll show you the flowchart of the patch. At the end, there will be a few more audio demos. If you'd like to support this video series, or you want to get access to the PDF sheets of the illustrations I use in this and many of my other videos, have a look at my Patreon. But now, let's dive right in. For this patch, we're gonna make a simple voice, but instead of using the spring reverb as an end-of-chain effect, make it an integrated part of the voice. Let's start with the oscillator. I'll use the Dixie 2. To give the voice some manual flexibility, I take both the sine wave as well as the saw wave from the oscillator into a triad. In this case, used as a 3-channel audio mixer. The mix output is sent directly to the spring reverb. I use the Doepfer A-199 spring reverb here. It's a very affordable module that has a full wet, so a reverb-only output, as well as a mix output. With this knob, you can set the mix between dry and wet signal. To finish the voice, take that mix output of the spring reverb and send it to a filter. I use the Doepfer Wasp filter. The signal is sent from the Wasp filter to the Glnds VCA using a stackable cable, so I can make a copy later. From the VCA, the audio is going to an outboard mixer. Now you have a voice with a few manual control points. You can mix the different waveforms, use the dry-wet mix on the reverb, and of course use the filter to scope the sound. To make the voice a bit more musical, I use the Korg SQ1 to create a little sequence. The CV out is going to the 1 volt per octave on the Dixie. And the gate output is used to trigger a simple attack decay envelope on the Quadra. The SQ1 will stay just off screen on the top corner there. The triggered envelope on the Quadra is sent to modulate the filter. Again, I use a stackable cable here because, to keep it simple, I use a copy of that envelope to open the VCA as well. There we have our simple voice. But now it gets more interesting. To get the most out of those lovely spring reverb sounds, you can take a copy of the output of the filter and send it to the audio mixer, used before the spring reverb input. This way you create a feedback loop. Audio from the mixer is going into the spring reverb, into the filter, back into the mixer, back into the reverb, and so on. With every loop though, the audio passes through the filter. That means that instead of the feedback going crazy, you can tame the sound by controlling the filter. To expand this a bit, instead of sending a copy of the audio from the filter directly back into the mixer, send it to a VCA. I use another channel of the Glnds here. The output of the VCA goes back into the mixer, so you basically create the same feedback loop. But this time you can modulate the feedback amount, for example by taking a sine wave LFO to gently open and close the VCA. Finding the right balance between feedback and filtering is crucial. Adding the reverb in a simple voice like this turns it into a sound sculpting device with a unique flavor. You can also really bring out those classic spring reverb feedback sounds while still keeping the voice controlled with the filter and VCA. As I mentioned earlier, the Doepfer A-199 spring reverb also has a full wet output, and I wanted to share a simple variation to the patch we have. Instead of sending the output of the filter into the feedback loop, you can simply take the wet output of the reverb. The signal now goes reverb wet out, VCA, mixer, and back into the reverb, and so on. This way, the filter isn't included in the feedback loop, but it gives you some other interesting sounds, especially because you still have the VCA to control the feedback amount. If you're interested in the more conceptual layout of the patch, here's the flowchart. Starting with a single oscillator, take one or more waveforms into an audio mixer. The mix output is sent to a spring reverb, from the reverb to a filter, and finally a VCA. In this setup, a sequencer is tuning the oscillator and triggering a single attack decay envelope. That envelope is used to modulate the filter as well as open the VCA. To create the feedback loop, a copy of the audio coming out of the filter is sent to a VCA, and from the VCA back into the audio mixer. An LFO is used to modulate the VCA, controlling the amount of signal feeding back into the loop. The little variation I showed at the end replaces the copy of the signal leaving the filter with the wet output coming directly out of the spring reverb. Of course, you can take this base patch and experiment by using different modulation sources, or even replacing the spring reverb with any kind of effect you like and see what happens. Make sure to watch the Patch of the Day playlist, as I'm sure this series will grow fast. But here are a few more audio demos I made with this patch. Make sure to smash that like, subscribe and bell button if you want to see more modular content from me. But that's it for now. Thanks for watching and see you next time.